I'm driving my kids to school.
Okay.
All of a sudden, I get pulled over. All of a sudden, I hear this yelling. I look back, and the guy has got his gun on me, drawn. Welcome to the podcast. Today, I've got a very special guest, Tracy Chappell, city prosecutor, criminal defense trial attorney in private practice, candidate for Jackson County prosecutor. Super excited to have you in the podcast today.
Thank you for having me, Troy. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for being here. First, tell us about your story.
I am from a small town in Alabama. I moved here in 1997.
Okay.
So I'm dating myself a little bit. I went to UMKC Law School. I thought that I would leave, but fortunate for everybody here, I stayed.
Yes.
And so I started off in private practice, and actually what I did, myself and 3 other females out the gate, opened up our first, we opened up our law firm. And so
Really?
I didn't go into the traditional law firm working for somebody else.
Yeah.
I had the forethought of wanting to exemplify leadership. And so myself and 3 other females opened up our own law firm.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That takes some big, you know what? However you want to say it.
Yeah, I mean, it was
Ambition.
We'll say ambition.
Yes.
It was a little scary,
Yeah.
but it was something that needed to be done, and it pushed me out of a shell.
Okay.
And it forced me to really go into every area of the law that I could get my hands on and practice. So I did that. I did some in-house practicing. I did that for Allstate Insurance Company. I went out and worked for myself again.
Okay.
Went to work for Jackson County.
Okay.
And then I came out, worked for myself again because that gave me the latitude that I needed. You know, you have kids and kids have activities, and that
Do you
just
have
gave
children?
me. I have children. I do.
Will you tell me about them?
Yeah, absolutely. I have 4 boys. So I prayed for that. No girls. I'm sorry.
Really?
Yes.
So 4 kings.
4 kings that I'm raising.
Right.
4 kings. And they're all in sports, believe it or
that.
not. You love it. That's wearing me out.
Yeah, well, it's wearing me out too. I'm
Yeah.
coaching football right now. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have football players. I have basketball players. I have track runners.
Okay.
So I'm pretty spread thin, right now.
Yeah, I
I have one
understand.
graduating right now.
High school?
High school, yes.
I would have
Yes.
never guessed that.
Really?
No.
Okay, I'll take it.
Yes.
We have one that's in college.
Okay.
One's graduated from high school, and I have 2 younger kids. And so they have been very supportive of what I've decided to do along
Yeah.
with my husband. I'll count him as one of the kids too.
That's what my wife says. I'm her 3rd kid. Why are husbands... Okay, let's go real quick. Why are husbands considered the 3rd child or the 4th child or the 5th child?
We have to keep giving you direction on
That's
what
true.
to do, on
Yes.
how to do it, and
Yes.
what's going to make the household run better.
I totally agree. And I further emphasize the point. We were just talking about it with one of my guys here.
Mm-hmm.
Is he was excited about his woman. And I said, if you get the right woman behind you, you can accomplish everything. And that's in the books that I read, Think and Grow Rich, all that stuff. And I never actually knew it could actually happen until I married the right woman.
Having the right woman or the right helpmate will take you to levels that you never thought that you could be in.
100%.
You have to have the right person behind you. I totally agree with you on that one.
100%. So let's go back to Alabama. So where are you from in Alabama?
It is a small town called Alabaster.
Where's it by?
Oh my goodness, it's probably about 30 minutes south of Birmingham.
We flip properties in Birmingham.
Really?
Yes.
I have a nephew who's a police officer in Birmingham.
Really?
I do. So yeah, I grew up there. It's a relatively small town.
Yeah.
It didn't really, it kind of, but not really prepared me for what I'm facing now. It did not.
Yeah.
But
Country.
it's country. It is country where everybody knows everybody. They do.
100%. Those small towns in Alabama, Mississippi, you were in the South.
Mm-hmm.
You are in, I invested a lot in Mississippi. You're in these small towns, like small towns.
Small towns. So much so when I go home, because people are buying up the real estate and they're developing, I don't even recognize my town anymore.
Oh, it's grown.
It has grown exponentially. It has. And
Yeah.
that's exciting.
Yeah.
The school system is exciting. I mean, the school that I went to was Thompson High School. Now, I was a cheerleader.
Were you?
I was a cheerleader, yes.
Good.
Yes. All throughout high school,
You
I
got a
was a
good
cheerleader.
smile, and it seemed like you could cheer us on. Let's go win, boys.
All right, I was a cheerleader. And so now when I go back to the high school, I think the last time we went to a football game.
Yeah.
It has changed so much. It looks like a college campus now.
Yeah.
And so I got to see all the big heads, Nick Saban, the coach for LSU. They're all recruiting from Thompson High School, the same high school that I went to.
Okay.
And Tua, who plays for Florida, or the Miami Dolphins, I'm sorry. His brother was there. And so they were there looking to recruit him at that time. So it's a pretty big deal down there.
For sure.
Football is a pretty big deal there.
So what brought you up to Kansas City?
Jesus.
Jesus did?
Well, let me say this. Anytime you see a woman really traveling, you better know that there's a man involved.
Same thing. It goes vice versa.
Does it really?
Oh, absolutely. That's my guys why they're here.
Oh, my goodness.
Chasing women.
Chasing women.
Anytime you have a man with a strong command of another language, there's probably a woman involved. Like how'd you learn Portuguese?
Ah, okay. Yeah.
So there was a man involved in this one.
I met a guy in college. I went to Jacksonville State University. It's close to Anniston, Alabama.
Okay.
And so there was a military base that was nearby. So one of these days I made my way there, even though I didn't have official business on the base.
Were you recruiting?
Kinda.
Okay.
Kinda. And I met a gentleman there, and then he transferred to Fort Leavenworth, and then I came out for law school.
Awesome. And one of my biggest regrets is not getting my law degree.
Really?
Yeah, in 2008, they had a thing in Las Vegas where I lived for 15 years where you could get your Juris Doctor and MBA at night. And I was like, and I didn't do it. And it's like, I felt like so now I'm making my kids get their law degree.
Oh my goodness. Come on. It's still not too late. It's not.
I feel like where I'm at, my business career would be kind of like going a little bit backwards just because I do enjoy the law, but I'd much rather team up with a good attorney these days than try to go and like be an attorney.
Okay, make sure it's a good attorney. Okay.
Yeah, I work with a lot of great attorneys here. Some of you may know Herb Hardwick.
I know Herb.
Yeah, and a lot of different people. But I'm very interested in the law. As you know, it's the law of the land. So you're running for prosecutor of Jackson County.
Absolutely.
Who's your competitor?
At this point, I'm not really sure. And the reason that I say that, I don't have a primary. And on the other ticket, you have 3 individuals who do have a primary. So after August 6th, that's when I will know exactly who my competitor is going to be.
Okay. What do you hope to accomplish as the Jackson County prosecutor?
I want people to know that the Jackson County prosecutor is the pinnacle, really, of the county. They are the bridge between the communities and the police departments.
Right.
And many people on one side, you have the community, either they love the police or they hate them. And you have the police officers who simply want to do their job.
Right.
But in the middle of all that is the prosecutor. The prosecutor brings everyone together because they are the individuals who can speak to both.
Yeah.
They're the individuals who can rally the communities together to bring them together so that communities can feel safe, so that your communities can start to tell who's committing these violent crimes and these violent activities. And the prosecutor is the person who can communicate also with the police department to say, hey, I know who did this.
Yeah.
And when you do your investigation and you not only do your investigations, but you make lawful arrests, I'm going to prosecute. I'm going to make sure that the job that you did not go, it wasn't for nothing.
Can I bring up some really crazy strategies that I would have if I was a prosecutor?
Let's hear it.
So I know that it may not go over well on social media right now, but I think that if you do crime, like especially property crime, we talk a lot about violent crime, but there's a lot of property crime that really affects people.
Absolutely.
Like I had a guy come out here and do donuts in my parking lot and cause me tens of thousands of dollars on it. And, it's like, it is what it is. That happens to somebody else or a newer landlord or a new person, they get their AC stolen. It's one of those things. I believe it's all goes down to the drug system. Okay. So like, how do we get people off drugs in this city so that like, we're not just, because obviously if we're prosecuting people who are committing crimes, that's great. But if they're not committing them, then that's an even better thing, right?
That's absolutely.
So like, how do we stop people who are on drugs from committing property crimes?
That is a loaded question.
It might be.
But that's okay. So let's start here. I think the first question that you asked was, how do we keep people from doing drugs?
Right.
Okay. Right now, in the current administration, Jean Peters Baker sent a letter to the KCPD in 2021, basically telling them that if you have people who are in possession of drugs, we're not going to prosecute those crimes unless it's coupled with a violent crime. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so when you have people who are selling fentanyl, people are in possession of fentanyl, and we know that drug is killing our kids and having them drop like flies left and right.
Right.
Okay.
100%.
When you have people who are in possession of meth, these people need help. They really need help.
Right.
And we have drug courts that are currently in place that will get them the help that they need. But if you're not prosecuting those cases, these people are walking away and they're basically committing crime. They're in our cities and we're not doing anything about it simply because a prosecutor chose not to follow the law.
Right.
I mean, and that in and of itself is a problem, because that is what we're here for. We're here to follow the law. We're here to prosecute crime. Nothing more, nothing less.
Right.
And so when you have individuals, first of all, so we have to deal with people who are in possession of these drugs.
Right.
And then when you talk about them committing crimes, and more importantly, property crimes have just, I mean, it is ridiculous the way that this current administration is treating property crimes.
Why are they doing that? Like, what is the deal? Like, okay, and I don't know George Soros. I don't know any of these things, but I do know he's funding a lot of these prosecutors to get elected into office and basically not prosecute crimes.
Sure.
And it's tearing apart our cities.
Absolutely.
And so
Absolutely.
what's the end goal? Chaos?
It is total chaos. It brings no benefit. It brings division to our communities as a whole. And you're right. It just tears it up. And it's when you have that division and chaos within a city, now you're starting to have what we have in California, and you start having it's almost like they want people to start deserting the city. But we're not going to do that, because under my leadership, we're going to prosecute all crimes, not just violent crimes, because right now they're putting all their resources towards violent crimes. And even with them putting their resources there, they're still not prosecuting. Yeah. If you don't believe me, you can stop any police officer in any jurisdiction and ask them. And I mean, I'm sure you have.
I have. They all say on the book, the prosecutor won't do jack shit currently. And I'm saying that. And that's why I'm so excited to meet with you, because I was like, I wanted to find whoever was going to be. And that's why I asked you about your family, because if you're a mother raising 4 boys. Absolutely. And, you know, I don't know Jean Peters Baker or anything like that or her history, but I believe if you don't have children and you haven't raised people and you haven't been through real world business, which you have, you don't have any business in the prosecutor's office, because you don't know how to handle people.
I would agree with you. I mean, here's the thing, and I think we talked about this a few minutes ago. As the prosecutor, you have to be in each and every community in which you serve. That means going into, 31st and Prospect. You can't be scared. You cannot be afraid to deal with the people that you're going to prosecute, and also deal with the people that you have to help. Independence Avenue, being on Cleveland. You cannot be afraid of those areas.
28th and Van Brunt.
Yes, you cannot be afraid of them. You absolutely cannot, because that is where your victims are going to be. That is where your criminal activities are going to take place. And if you are afraid to be around people that you have to prosecute, you have a problem, and you absolutely should not be in that office.
Yeah, we're very comfortable in those areas. That's where most of my rental properties are.
I'm comfortable in those areas, just like I'm comfortable being in Eastern Jackson County. I'm comfortable being in Kansas City. Wherever you place me, wherever I land, I'm going to be comfortable being there. And that is exactly what you need in a leader, because a leader doesn't back down from anything. 100%. Or
they back down when it benefits everybody.
When it's for the good of everyone. You're absolutely right. But sometimes a leader has to, even in those situations, they have to walk in alone.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes.
So one thing I wanted to mention, and I want to be very careful with my words here. So back in the old days, when a guy committed a crime, a property crime, they would have to do some cleanup. I would like to see, you're from Alabama and you're from Mississippi. When I invested in Mississippi, I would see guys who were committing crimes and they were cleaning up. They're rolling paint on graffiti. Like, we have all these property crimes. Put these guys to work. You know what gives people confidence and and purpose work.
Oh, absolutely.
When you're looking at these lower level prisons, these guys coming out of these camps and stuff like that, they're essentially, they could run it and go at any point in time, but they're so happy to get out and they're sober. And so they've done a lot of reflection, but they're doing small jobs like farming and stuff like that. We've got all these guys committing crimes. I say we whoop them into shit. Like, if it's like my kids, I'd be having them run driveways. Absolutely. I'd be having them do push-ups. I'd be treating them like the military and saying, you know what, you committed a crime. Now you're the department of this Kansas City. You're going to go work to clean up some of this mess that you've created.
Absolutely. I would agree with that. And let me take it a step further.
Okay.
So I know we're kind of jumping in and out of the places, and I like it. I like this. Right. I do. No. Don't be sorry. Okay. I like it.
Okay.
Here's what I will tell you. Number one, people, when they're committing property crimes, the reason that the rates are so high is because nothing is being done. It's just like raising children. Mm-hmm. When children misbehave and you don't deter that behavior, they're going to continue to do it.
100%.
So with adults, they're becoming emboldened because when nothing's being done, when they steal a car, it's tampering. When they break into a house, I mean, it's nothing's being done. So they're like, let's just continue. I'm going to get a slap on the hand. Okay.
Yeah.
And that is ridiculous. When I was Blue Springs prosecutor, I was so shocked to learn the various cases that were landing on my desk that were not supposed to be in municipal court. When you think about municipal court, you think about just the very lowest of crimes. You think about traffic tickets. You think about driving while suspended. You think about maybe lower level stealing cases or lower level assault cases. Yeah. Let me tell you the cases that I was getting as municipal court prosecutor in Blue Springs. I was getting drive-by shootings. I had to call the police officer down and say, okay, I had to ask him, why is this here? Number one. And then number two, did you make a mistake? Did you forget to send this to state court? What is going on? This is a felony. Mm-hmm. He would tell me the prosecutor refused to prosecute this case, so we brought it here. Mm-hmm. That is ridiculous because the only thing that I could do is give them a $500 fine or 6 months in jail.
And they're not paying the fine.
They're not going to pay the fine.
Yeah, you got to get the 6 months in jail.
But those are felonies that should not have been on my desk. So as the next Jackson County prosecutor, I guess I was in training then, I had to step up and do the job that Jean Peters Baker would not do.
Right.
And she just had a failed leadership, and I had to do that along with other municipal court prosecutors.
Yeah.
I didn't have a problem doing it because it needed to be done. But when I say that, I mean individuals who commit those crimes, they become emboldened because if that is all you get for a felony, they're going to keep doing it. They have no incentive whatsoever to stop doing what they're doing.
They're not just ripping off people like me. They're ripping off the city.
Absolutely.
I've seen guys, and the reason I talk about the copper, I have seen guys electrocute themselves clipping power lines to recycle copper.
Yeah.
And the way I think you get rid of that is you prosecute the recyclers.
Absolutely.
Because these guys, they're getting paid. They're getting 17 pounds out of copper to get high. They strip somebody's entire unit out. The guy takes the money. Nobody gets in trouble. He keeps going.
Not only that, but the person, you're saying strip the people who are buying the copper, but also the people who are actually stripping the copper. You've got to prosecute them. You have to send a message that 100%. This is unacceptable. And when you send a message, trust me, because I practice law in Platte County, Clay County, Cass County, Johnson County, Missouri. I am all over.
Who's
okay?
the toughest?
Probably Platte County.
That's where I live.
Platte County is the toughest. Yeah. And I spoke with their prosecutor at length. And
what's his name again?
Eric Zahn.
Yes.
Eric Zahn. And so when they are prosecuting, trust me, criminals, it's almost like an underground, unspoken thing. They start getting the message. If you go there and you commit crime, you're going to be prosecuted. Some of my own clients have said, man, I wish I would have committed this crime in Jackson County. That is embarrassing because when I'm looking at it, I just thought, you know what, as your next prosecutor, you too will say, man, I should have committed this crime elsewhere. It will not be Jackson County anymore, because it's going to be law and order. And I'm going to start prosecuting not only the violent criminals, but also property crimes. I mean, it's just, you have to contain it. It's like a wildfire. It starts small, but if there's nothing around it to contain it, it begins to spread and spread everywhere. And that's what we're dealing with now.
I love that you said that. I think that's great, and I do agree that it's criminals are big children. We're all children. We're all kids, right? Like,
yes.
And if you let me get away with something, I'm going to push the limits again.
Absolutely.
And I have a good relationship with the Scott Fricker, the council of Platte County.
Okay.
And I know they're in the process of building a new jail right now.
It's needed.
It's on their list because they're tough on crime.
Yes.
But because they're tough on crime, I feel safe there. Now, I'm going to tell you something else that happened to me, which has never happened to me in my life. And I was taking my kids to school on a weekday with my golf clubs in the back, and I got pulled over in Platte County by a Platte County sheriff at gunpoint. And for a non-criminal nothing. I tell the story to everybody. They look at the exact same way you're looking at me right now. Now, I will tell you, I was newer to town. I lived in Midtown, same neighborhood that our mayor lives in, and I was doing a flip right there, okay? And I moved into it because as we're building our house in Platte County, and I'm driving my kids to school, and I'm not, doing anything bad, but I do have my Nevada plates still.
Okay.
All of a sudden, I get pulled over. I will tell you, Tracy, I have been known to speed before, so I'm not innocent in the speeding thing. I've had my tickets, but I've been pulled over. I'm very comfortable being pulled over. I'm very comfortable with police and stuff like that. As I'm getting pulled over, I'm talking to my kids. The kids are in the back, and I take a time to find a safe place to pull over. I never accelerate. I never do anything. All of a sudden, I hear this yelling. I look back, and the guy has got his gun on me, drawn, and saying, "Step out the car, open it from the outside." And I back up. Within 30 seconds, I was in handcuffs, and my kids are in the back car watching this whole thing. I'm one exit away from taking them to school.
Oh my gosh!
And they're traumatized, right? And so I tell the guy, I said, "Why are you putting me in handcuffs? Why are you pointing a gun at me? Why? I've complied with all your orders. What is this happening?" And I think it was a good old, we're going to take this guy's truck, and that's it. Because I kept telling everybody, and as more and more people came, the paddy wagon came, all these people came. I finally said, okay, I'm going to they don't think I'm someone. I'm going to tell them I'm someone. So I told them, hey, I bought 100 properties out here in Jackson County. I said, I live and I'm building my house in Platte County. And then all of a sudden, all these supervisors start coming up, and they go, why didn't you tell us you have kids in the car? I said, that's all I've been telling you.
Oh, my.
But anyways, why I'm telling you that is the cops right now, and I like cops, but there's a lot of cops that don't belong on the streets. They're scared cops. They're the ones that you don't want on 31st and Prospect.
Yeah.
You want them guarding the library.
Yeah.
I'm serious. And this is one of the guys, the guy who had me in handcuffs, he was shaking like a leaf on a tree. His mind was that I was evading or something was going on. I don't know. He went to freaking cloud 9. But my point is, I watched this a time where like a police officer escalates a situation. Like I saw a guy the other day that he was refusing medical coverage. And the guy's like, you're going to take medical coverage. And the guy was like a caged animal. Like he felt threatened. And all of a sudden he grabs the guy's taser, and now they shoot him and kill him. And that whole incident, I felt like could have been de-escalated.
Absolutely.
So the reason I say that is I'm a guy who believes in the police, but I also think that a lot of these guys need retraining about how to de-escalate situations. Like, why are we pulling our taser? Why are we pulling our firearms? Why are we threatening people just to let them know we're in charge? A true man who knows he's in charge is going to set that tone, going to de-escalate the situation.
I would agree.
Yeah. So how do we get our police department in check? I know they support you.
Here's what I will say. First and foremost, I do support our police officers. So I want to set the tone for that right now.
Okay.
And you are absolutely correct. There are some officers who, and it's not just you, okay?
Yeah.
I don't know if he was new to the force. I'm not sure what his story is, okay? And I don't...
Well, KCPD's been great to me.
Okay, this was a sheriff.
This was Platte County.
Okay, this is the Platte County Sheriff's Department.
Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, I would say they definitely, that person needs some training. They also have, I would like to think that they have, every police department should have this, an office where you can file a formal complaint.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know if you did that at that time or if you just said, I'm leaving it alone.
My wife said, leave it alone. I listened to my wife.
Okay.
She said, you're new in town. Don't be going. I did call the sheriff. He came over to my house. He addressed the situation, and that was what it was. And we went and handled the non-moving violation in court and just got it kicked out. But I felt like it was just a situation. I'm like, man, if I had had a bad day, Tracy, if I had had a bad day and I brought my phone, I have my phone on me all the time. I record everything.
Yes.
If I had had a bad day and I came at that guy, I could have potentially lost my life. And that's what happens to people.
But let me say this. You had the luxury, and I do want to say this. You've had the luxury of being around other officers who have had training.
Yes.
Okay. So I want you to, and this, when I start talking about communities, what about people who have, or communities who have not had the luxury of being around police officers, who have not formulated a connection or have collaborated with police in the past, okay?
Yeah.
So they're sitting there, and if that were to happen to them, obviously they will be feeling exactly like you feel.
Yeah.
But, you know, they now have a perception of all police officers are bad.
Right.
And they don't have necessarily where, you know, the chief of police or the sheriff is going to come to their house and share with them, this is what happened and let's talk this over.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean about being a prosecutor.
Yeah.
That's when you have to bring both parties together when something like that happens so that they can have those conversations, that it wasn't because you are a minority or whatever you are. It's not because of that. It's just that this police officer needed they needed training. They need to go back and, I mean, really start following, maybe being under somebody else again, which encompasses that training. You have to start doing that. But then when I'm talking to you, I'm like, you're one in a million that gets that chance, because a lot of people, they don't get that.
Yeah. And I thought, like, if I was somebody else, I might've lost my life, because what I felt as my feelings and my emotions that day, which I'm pretty not in tune with, what my feelings and emotions said that day was, I'm losing my kids.
Yeah.
They're going to take my kids. And I could understand somebody who's maybe having a bad day doing something else, saying like, I'm going to run, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to, you know what I mean? I felt that situation. I felt like, I'm losing my kids. I'm in the back of this squad car. I've got no control over anything. And so I understood it from that perspective, which for me, I looked at it as every lose I have, that was a lose, right? Every sort of setback I have, I always look at like, what could I have done better? How do I go and avoid this situation? But I felt like I handled that one really well, to be honest with you, because I de-escalated him.
Absolutely. And here's what I would tell you. When you were talking about your children being traumatized, that's a difficult situation to be in, because you have so many kids in that situation that are traumatized.
Yeah.
And then that escalates or takes them down a different path.
Right.
Okay. It does.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the paths are not always good.
Right.
They're not.
Yeah.
So what we want to do as the next prosecutor is start bringing those people in and collaborating with police officers. That is not, I'm not the chief of police, but I work with the as the prosecutor, I would be working with the chief of police. And hopefully she or whoever's in office, would be willing to collaborate with communities and bring police along so that they are not afraid to police those that they come into contact with.
I think that's so important, what you just said right there. And I don't think a lot of people really understand that. But having talked to a lot of KCPD, which are some of the best PD, I'm from Las Vegas. They don't respond to crimes at all. Like I lived in Las Vegas the last 15 years for the last 3 years here.
Okay.
And you could call and you were going to be on hold like till the cows come home.
Oh my goodness.
And KCPD may get a bad rep from some people here, but I have found them to be awesome to go in and help me remove people who have broken into houses. And Platte County's got some work to do on that. But I will tell you that, like, I have found them to be great police officers, but I have talked to these guys as real people and I'm like, hey, what's the deal here? And he's like, it doesn't matter what we do. The prosecutor here ain't going to do nothing. And so what you're saying is like, if they feel that the prosecutors got their back, they can police.
And let me tell you this. When police officers, and this is when I talk to them, it doesn't matter if it's KCPD, it doesn't matter if it's Blue Springs police officers, Lake Lotawana, no matter where the policing jurisdiction is.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. When those officers respond to a crime, they do an investigation, they make a lawful arrest. When they know that they have the support of the prosecutor, it's almost like them having an S on their chest.
Yes.
They will go above and beyond and do whatever they need to do to make sure that our cities, our counties are safe. They're going to do it because I've seen it.
Yeah.
But when they start to feel, like you said, what's the use, that means that they are not interested. They become, well, let me say this. It's not that they're not interested. It's almost like it's burdensome to know that no matter what I do, if I go out, I spend all these hours, I do my job, essentially.
Yeah.
Then the person that I report to or bring these cases to, they're going to just send it out anyway. So what's the use?
Well, even further than that, if they don't respect that person,
Oh, yeah.
why the hell would they even care? Because they're like, if you have mutual respect from the prosecuting office to the police department,
Yes.
you guys can accomplish a lot. But if they're like, well, this person we have here ain't going to do anything anyway, so what's the point of us doing our job to our full potential if we do everything we say we're supposed to do and do everything we say, and then we hand it up here and they just sit on it, then there's no point. I do have some questions I want to go through.
But let me just wrap that up for a second.
Please.
But not only does that bleed over between the prosecutor and the police departments, but guess who else that affects? It affects the communities.
Big time.
Because the communities, the police are the first responders to them, okay?
100%.
So they start developing the attitude, when the prosecutor's not prosecuting, then the police officers start to feel like, what's the use? Now you have the community saying also, what's the use?
Right.
If I call the police, they're not going to come out, or if they come out, they're going to say that there's nothing that we can do. So everything is a downhill effect, and and at the top of that hill is the leadership of the Jackson County prosecutor. And you have to have that leadership, and you have to prosecute in order for everyone, not just for the prosecution, not just for the communities, but also for the police officers to feel safe and to feel that whatever they do, something's going to be done about it.
I think you're 100% right, and I couldn't agree more. It is actually a community problem because it does affect the community. Like, we get AC units stolen all the time off our properties. Yes. I don't file any police reports ever. What's the use?
But then here's the thing. So now you're suffering because your insurance is, people are like, okay, how many times are you going to call us about the same issue?
We don't even get insurance.
Wow.
There's no point.
Wow.
It's just because we try to cage them. Yeah. We cage every single one of our units. Inside, we used to cage the furnaces. Outside, and they would still go gone. I would take matters into my own hands, but I'd probably get in trouble on certain things.
I'm like, don't say that on the podcast.
Yeah. Are you interested in investing in real estate, but you don't feel like you got the time to take a coaching program? I get it, right? You're busy, you're making money, and that's okay, but you want to invest with me because you're like, Troy, I like what you do. I see what you're doing. You're a real deal. Yes, I am. I'm an average Joe. I worked at Burger King. I worked at Red Robin. I started investing in real estate, and I started from absolutely nothing. And I will take you along with my journey, and you can get all the benefits, but you got to be an accredited investor. If you want to invest with me and you want to be a part of something great and you don't have the time, guess what? We're launching a fund that you can be a part of, but you got to be an accredited investor. And if you want to find out more about what that looks like, all you got to do is click the link and we'll show you exactly what that looks like. And guess what? If you're not an accredited investor, then you may down the road be an accredited investor. So definitely learn what that's all about and enjoy the podcast, and we'll see you on the next one. I do have a couple questions that I wanted to go through because they are important to a lot of people listening to this podcast. Kansas City has one of the highest murder rates. It's also known as Killer City.
Yes.
How do we change our name?
You change your name by not being afraid to prosecute. And let me explain that a little bit. What they're doing, the prosecutor's office, they want people to, they want to prosecute a case that's so clean that I mean, you go in, it's an in and out process, and
Yes.
it's not always like that. And what I mean is there's a certain thing called circumstantial evidence. I may not have saw you pull the trigger, but I have witnesses who say you pull the trigger. The ballistics come back to the gun that belonged to you or that you had your hands on, or your fingerprints are on this gun that was found at the scene. Okay. You have to put the pieces together. It's not going to always be, oh my goodness, we had this on a door ring camera and it showed everything. It's not going to be that. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you have a prosecutor who's saying, it's not always going to be clean, but I'm going to go in and I'm going to prosecute because this is the police work that I received and it pointed to this individual. You have to start prosecuting. It cannot be where even the criminals are like, well, what do they really have on me? They don't really have this or they don't really have that. No.
And they're all talking about it in jail.
Yeah, they're talking about it all the time. Who has this? Even a community leader, I spoke with her and she said, I get things on my door ring camera all the time. I've seen murders. I've seen people be shot, but my husband said, stay out of it. And I thought, and their logic was nothing's going to be done anyway. And if we stand up and we tell what we saw, we are subject to retaliation. So that goes back to, you have to show the people as the prosecutor that you are behind them. If they are brave enough to come and tell you who did it or give you information, then you should be a big enough leader to do something about it. So when people are killing in the streets and behaving just violently, they're going to start knowing, okay, that's what you do. You have a minimum of 20 coming. And when I say 20, I don't mean $20. No. I mean 20 years, right. A minimum, not maximum.
I like that. Kansas City had a recent incident that kind of bloodied the water.
Sure.
With our Super Bowl champion Chiefs.
Yes.
I have two questions. They kind of swept it under the rug, in my opinion. Like, you should be talking about this. I know they don't. I know they want it to go away from a PR standpoint.
Sure.
But we want to have our parade again next year, the same place, right?
Yes.
And so why not just address it and say, hey, this is how we're going to make it safe next time. And anybody, like, this is something that could be prevented.
You're saying it could or could not have been prevented?
Could.
Okay.
I believe it could have been prevented.
Because it's so many people.
Yeah.
When I recall, because I came to the parade.
Yeah.
And my husband and my kids came as well.
Yes.
And I remember looking around and saying, wow, if there was a sniper or somebody here, we would be prime targets because it's people everywhere.
Yeah.
And you try to contain, almost 1 million people. You need a lot of officers.
You do.
From every jurisdiction, including FBI, CIA, DEA, you need officers. Reserves. You need everybody.
Yeah. You need like almost a military type of, so that people feel safe.
Yes. Because I can tell you right now, even doing the St. Patrick's Day parade, people were kind of like, are we going to be safe around here?
Yeah. Because
of what happened before.
Yeah.
And when you reduce it to the people who committed the crime, it's the young juveniles, it's the young kids that are doing it because they're walking around with their AR-15s. And I'm thinking, for what? You do not have the mind development to even know how, when, why, and where to even use that. So from my understanding, it revolved around somebody looking at me wrong.
Yeah.
And, I would say that's the stupidest thing in the world. Somebody looked at you wrong, so that caused you to pull out your gun and shoot in a crowd where kids and babies and, even football players are there.
Yeah.
That was ridiculous. But you're finding more and more the people that are committing these violent and senseless acts, they are the juveniles.
Yeah. Okay.
So for me, as your next prosecutor, what I'd like to see is, I don't know if you're familiar with combat.
I'm not.
It's
I know what combat is, but I'm sure this is like like some sort of a.
They raised a quarter-cent sales tax. It started in 1989, and at that time, it was drug prevention, drug treatment. Okay. Well, as time evolved, then we start seeing a lot of the violent crimes.
Right.
So then it became, okay, now it's violent prevention, violent treatment.
Right.
And so a lot of times it's a quarter cent sales tax, and it's about $30 million, and the prosecutor is over the combat unit.
Okay.
And so they fund various agencies, probably about 93 agencies who are involved in anti-drug, drug treatment, anti-violence. So what
SWAT?
They fund police departments. They fund the prosecutor's office with that money. Some of the circuit courts, they fund as well.
Okay.
What I'd like to see is at least 5 of those agencies that are funded. I would like to see 5 of those agencies specifically earmarked towards juveniles and their mindsets, and changing that and mentoring programs for them, because it is the juveniles that are coming out that are the most vicious and who's out here and they don't have a care in the world. Those are the ones you're running into who says, you disrespected me, you looked at me wrong, you did this, so now I'm going to shoot. Okay. Yeah. So we have to start dealing with them and really be in their face so that we can change the juveniles from being juveniles to changing them when they become adults.
Yeah.
Many people don't know this. I work with juveniles in the sense that I represent them in family court. And so I'm having 15-year-olds, driving a stolen vehicle with his AR-15 in there. And I'm like, come on. Yeah. And the most that they're giving them is probation. So they kind of baby them along until they're 18. And when they're 18, now you've babied them until they're now in big boy court. And that's the state court system. And it's no longer a walk in the park. Okay. Yeah. But if you get in early enough and you're dealing with these kids and their mindset, then we don't have to deal with them as adults.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. I actually, growing up in Washington State, we had a place where all the bad kids went called Echo Glen. And then out here, in Vegas, one of the guys that I happened to be able to mentor and help had 17 felonies before he was 18 years old, but they sent him to a boot camp.
Yeah. And
he said it changed his entire life. And that boot camp, and that's what I'd like to see is I think all these kids think they're tough but that they're so tough they got to bring a gun.
Absolutely.
So I say you send them to some sort of a military type of thing, maybe even I don't even know if you could do obligatory. I don't know how to say the word, but anyways. They have to serve in the military, because if you want to become a legal citizen and you're from somewhere else, you can serve in the military to do that.
That's right.
If you want to get your way out of your jam, go serve in the military. Learn what it takes to have real battlefield experience.
Absolutely.
And get gunfire back at you.
Absolutely. Even years ago, we had the Scared Straight program. So, it is my belief that you need to go back, take them into the jails, take them into the adult jail, so that they can see what it really looks like.
Put them in there.
Yeah. But you have to section them off.
Yeah.
But, I don't know if you've been inside an adult facility, oh my God, I would take you. Seriously. It is not.
Yeah, I want to go.
It's not a walk in the park. And when you're inside, it can be intimidating because it's all these people looking at you, and a lot of them know that they're in there. If they're Jackson County is their holding place, they know as soon as I'm convicted, I'm going down the road. I'm going to some Missouri adult institution, and I'll be in there for 30 years or sometimes more.
Yeah.
And a lot of them feel like I don't have anything to lose. So I feel like kids need to go in there and see what it really looks like, because mentally you're not ready for jail.
So maybe we could have like a little child care section of the jail where these guys, and they chow with these guys or something, because they're going to feel it for sure. And they're going to get this, hopefully, daylight scared out of them to go straight. I agree with that. That's great. Tracy, I want to go to my next question here. We already kind of addressed that one, which is that the current prosecutor has a history of not prosecuting crimes. What do you think the correlation between drug trafficking and crime in Kansas City is?
I'm hearing a lot about the cartel.
Okay.
That the cartel is bringing up the fentanyl. And the problem is, like I spoke to you a little earlier, you have a prosecutor who's currently in office who says, I am not prosecuting drug cases. And because you're not prosecuting drug cases, it is spreading.
Yeah.
It started off with, obviously, we had crack on the scene, okay?
Yeah.
And so we've done with that. And it's almost like crack doesn't even exist anymore because you have so many other drugs that are coming on the market.
Right.
You had meth come on the market, okay?
Big time problem.
Yeah, it was a huge problem. And so even those in possession now, those cases are not even being prosecuted. They're felonies, but they're sending them to municipal court. Okay. Now you have fentanyl, and I'm hearing, okay, the cartel is, because of the borders, they're open.
Mm-hmm. Do you like that rule?
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
Are you a Democrat or Republican?
I am Republican.
Okay.
I'm Republican. But I will tell you, running for the office of Jackson County prosecutor, it should not come with a label. It should not come with Democrat or Republican. It is just public safety. Okay. But when you talk about the border, absolutely not. It should not be open. Should not at all, because everything is coming over. Okay. And so they can bring drugs, they can do whatever. And when they're bringing drugs, there's already a policy in place that those crimes are not going to even be prosecuted.
It's so interesting that you say that, because I take deep dives on that stuff. So I watched a guy on Twitter actually go through the entire, he recorded himself going through the entire trek from Colombia up through America. And they're actually dropping people off there. This is not, people think that people are just crossing the border illegally that are coming from Mexico or South America. No, this is a well-orchestrated unit of people, and there is a political operative to get these people citizenship to vote.
Absolutely.
And to get your Social Security card, your welfare, everything right out. In fact, they're treating people that come across the border better than they're treating the own citizens right here.
Think about it. We just heard a couple of weeks ago when our own mayor has said we're going to be the refugee city. We're going to bring the refugees into Kansas City. And I thought, are you kidding me?
Why would he say that?
You know what? It could be, like you said, for more votes. We're getting ready to have the presidential election again in November. And sometimes if polls are not as favorable to one candidate as it is to another, those that are already in power, if they're giving $10,000 vouchers out and those individuals are able to vote, who do you think they're going to vote for? The person who took care of them.
So they get money. When you're a sanctuary city, you know how this, I don't know how this works. So if I'm a sanctuary city and I actually just run into the mayor yesterday. And he's fine. We don't agree. I don't align with any of pretty much what he aligns with, other than the fact that I want to see Kansas City do great. But we're on the different side of the spectrum on a lot of things.
Sure.
But I understand it's a tough job to be a mayor as well.
It's a tough job being in politics, period.
It
is. But whenever you're in politics, Troy, you have to be for the people. It is what the people want.
Yeah.
What's good for the city that you're in. And if you can't do that, like we said before, you don't need to be in that office.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that walking into City Hall, like I walked into City Hall before I moved here in 2019. Okay. And it was completely different than walking in 2024.
Were you here in 2020 when all the homeless had taken over the lawn of the City Hall?
No, but I did hear about that from somebody up there yesterday.
Yeah.
And they were actually living in the City Hall as well, not only on the lawn, but they had actually made places for them. I don't understand it. That's why I'm hoping, Tracy, maybe you're able to explain it. I don't understand it. I don't understand. Like, if it's for politics, then it seems like people are selling their soul.
Yeah.
Because why would we not, homelessness is a huge issue. It's usually drugs and alcohol.
Sure.
And there's also mental illness.
It's a mental illness. One of the biggest components of the homelessness is the mental illness.
Right.
And I used to be responsible when I worked for Jackson County for getting those who were mentally ill, not incarcerated, but committed to a facility for up to 21 days because they were a danger to themselves or to others.
For sure.
So now what we're dealing with, you have the homeless out there, but you also have who are mentally ill. But you also have those who are mentally ill who are committing violent crimes.
Yeah.
They're hearing voices. They're telling me voices are telling me what to do.
Yeah.
Okay. And those things that they're being told what to do, they're not always good and wholesome. They can be very violent. Okay. And so in this current administration, yes, they want to send some of the cases to mental health court, but then they want to also incarcerate those who have mental illnesses, and you cannot incarcerate your way out of a mental illness. You're going to have to deal with that, which means that you're going to have to collaborate with the public administrator's office so that they can have guardianship over these individuals. And then they can force those individuals to get their medication intravenously every 30 days.
Yeah.
So then, then we can start going down that road where those individuals are getting better. Then they can get the housing, the proper housing, and whatever they need in order to live a productive life.
How'd you get so tough?
I growing up in Alabama, my dad was hard on us. I mean, it just was what it was. I had brothers, I had 4 brothers, I had 1 sister, and we grew up, we didn't have a lot, and you had to fight for what you had. So when you grow up like that, your mindset is, you have to go get it.
Yeah.
And
I got the same mindset.
Do you?
100%.
Love it.
Yeah. But I what you're saying, I'm really liking your jam here, because it's funny that you're here. And because when I was talking to KCPD about the 28th and Van Brunt that I mentioned, we had a guy trying to burn down my house there multiple times, one of the houses I owned, and he had a street name and everything. And I was like coming after him a little bit, but I was like, I want to help whoever I feel can help this city get elected, and I think that's you. And so
I appreciate that.
And so the fact that you're here right now, I hope that this helps you get elected in some way, shape, or form, because I can tell, like, the reason I asked the question selfishly about the kids, because I want to know, I'm like, if this person doesn't have kids, how can they, be the next? Because that starts with it, right? If you
my kids are funny. They call me the warden. One of my sons told his school, he was like, he was like, the questions that you're asking me, they're nothing. My mom cross-examines us all the time, because I want to know with my kids, what do you think? How do you feel? How do you think about your community? How can we make things better?
Right.
And you don't get that soft spot with me, because we are raising men to go out into the communities and to do great things.
Right.
There's only the expectation of greatness in my home.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying if you don't get there, you're no longer my son.
Yeah.
They don't know that yet, but we're still raising them to do those things. And I think it's vitally important when you're dealing with males that you have to be heavily in their lives, because you don't want them to turn out to be one of the violent criminals that I'm dealing with on a day-to-day basis.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think it's so important to make sure, and I'm glad they call you the warden, because my kids refer to me the similar way, and I think it's one of those things that, like, if you're not tough on your own children, how are you going to be tough on other people?
You can't do it. You cannot do it.
This is something that I thought was interesting. So religion often intersects with political discourse. Where do you believe the influence in religion should stand in political decision making? The reason I ask that question is, like, I don't care what religion people are. I'm not even actually that religious of a person, but I believe that I was raised that way, and that's probably why I'm not that way so much. But I would say that, like, what I do thank my mom for is giving me good morals.
Sure. And
I think that a lot of times when I look at religion, I look at morality.
Sure. So I was raised Christian, and I'm still Christian. Okay, I didn't deviate.
Yeah.
But it's more so for me a relationship with God, more so than a title. Once again, we're dealing with titles. Okay.
Right. Yes.
And so when we're dealing with that and all the principles that God is saying to us, and He's telling us to do certain things, it's for our benefit. It's for our good. It's for the good of those that are around us. Okay. Just like He's saying, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's we know that as the golden rule. But I'm like, that actually comes out of the Bible.
Right.
And so that is something that I teach my kids. And if that is a philosophy that each person would abide by, we would be a much better community. We will be a community that's not divided on race issues, on politics, on anything. We would not be divided. And so you talk about, the morals, because my belief system does call for having good morals and respecting other people that come within my purview and that I'm dealing with. you have to have that, because when that flows over from me to whomever else, it just makes for a better environment for everyone. It just does.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I just felt like, certain things get a bad rap. Religion gets a bad rap.
Yes, it does.
And I don't think that, I think that most people that I'm around who are, whether they're Muslim, whether they're Christian, whether they're Jewish, they're trying to find a community that represents their values and their morals.
Sure.
And that's the reason I asked the question.
But think about it, Troy. The value and morals that encompass everything is if you respect other people and you're good to other people and you treat them like you would want to be treated.
Yeah.
That crosses every religious base that you can think of, because
1000%.
it's just loving people, caring about them, and treating them with respect.
Yeah, that's cool. So this is something I was pausing on asking you, but I'm going to ask it to you.
I'm almost scared.
No, it's nothing to be scared of. The only thing, you're a tough lady, but you got a lot of violent criminals out there. You're going to have a little bit of a target on your back. And I'm sure your husband's concerned about that stuff. There's a lot of violent people. How do you sleep at night with that? I mean, knowing that, there's going to be some people that are pissed off, right? You have a tough job to do is what I'm saying.
Absolutely. I had to speak with my family, my boys, my husband, before I even made the decision to run.
Right.
I had to. And I had to put out there, this is what it could entail. And everybody came together. And actually, it was New Year's Eve night. We all came together. We all talked about it. And everybody said, we put our hands in, and everybody said, I'm on board.
Right.
With whatever comes, we have your back. And I think that is so amazing. And I'm so blessed to have the kids, my husband, my family behind me 100%, because you're right. There will be tough things that will come up, but as long as I know I have my family, I'm good.
Yeah, that's 100% true. And it kind of encompasses everything that we talked about, because, I grew up in a broken home, divorced and everything like that. And, it always felt like I had no control. It was chaotic, but
Sure.
My kids, as we moved from Las Vegas and then moved to Midtown and then moved to Platte County, and then they feel as a family units together, they're happy, they feel comfortable. We're monitoring them. We're not relying on the school system to raise our kids.
No.
We're not relying on the police force to discipline our kids.
That's right.
We're setting that at home.
That's right. And honestly, Troy, let me tell you this. When I go to different communities, churches, wherever I go and I talk to people, it is amazing to me when I hear when people say or ask the question, how can we make things better? We need more. They say we need more police. We need more organizations. We need. That's all you hear.
Yeah.
And you hit the nail on the head. When you are taking care of home, you don't need police because you've already policed at home.
Yeah.
You don't need these various organizations because you have done it at home. Mm-hmm. And when you do it at home and they go out into the communities, you've already primed them. You've put something in them so that they're not feeling like, my gosh, I got to go pick up a gun. That's my first go-to. No, your first go-to is to deal with conflict because that's what we taught you at home.
Yeah.
So whatever happens at home, that is the first foundation that you can build on to get you where you need to be.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. We're on the same page there. I've got this question just popped in my head. And I'm going to probably, this will be my last question for you. But I'll tell you a very honest concern of mine as a business owner. Do you know what my biggest fear as a business owner is?
Ooh. Is it the snatch and grabs? Is it the...
No, it's actually the government. I'm afraid of them criminalizing my behavior, whatever I did, and taking away everything that I've ever earned for. And I've seen this happen. You're seeing this happen in the politics right now. I've seen it happen politically with a towing business I own where people tried to, they use the weight and heavy of things. I've seen it happen to multiple people. I mean, they're criminalizing what is the word? If you have in Nevada, they criminalized. I have a lady that worked for me as an independent contractor, and they're like, "Oh, she should be on workers' comp. That's a criminal act." I'm like, "That's in Nevada." And so my fear is that because I look at a lot of the prosecuting offices changing, and they're not looking going, well, we can't get money out of this guy, this violent criminal, but we can get money out of Troy Kearns. So we're going to go and shut him down. We're going to go create some story, some whatever. And I know multiple people who fear the government that are in the exact same position. They're scared to even speak their mind on social media. They're scared to speak their mind in general because they don't want a target on their back. They don't want to talk about Mark Zuckerberg and the TikTok ban or anything like that because they're afraid of getting shut down altogether. But there's things like that are going on, and I just wanted to kind of tell you that like people that have businesses that are successful, they're scared of the government.
I've not come across that, but that's really good to know. What I do hear is when you have individuals who are doing criminal activity in their homes,
right,
and people can't get them out of those homes, okay? The city will come in and start taking measures like, coding, giving them tickets,
right,
codes and things like that, to try to flush out the activity. But I'm going to keep in mind what you're saying because I've not come across that yet. The most that I've come across with business owners is, people coming in, stealing from their facility, or in your instance, when you're renting houses to somebody, them tearing up the house purposely or burning down the house. Those are things that have to be prosecuted, but I've not heard specifically what you're dealing with.
It's mainly like with, we talk in our industry, we do an education program, like large federal organizations. It's not usually a state and local one, but I am giving you an example of when I dealt with Las Vegas, what happened with us in Nevada. We had a lady who was a full-time bookkeeper that we had on workers' comp, and we had let her go, and so we canceled the workers' comp. And we got a letter from the state, and I didn't know it, but my this is a bad business practice I had, but my business practice at that time was registered mail. I don't need to, if it's good news, if it's registered mail, just refuse it. I don't even want it. Because that was my attitude. I had heard that some way, like if you don't do it, well, the state saw that was such a slap in the face because my reception just refused to have the thing that they came in. And they said, oh, who's this, who's that, who's the other person? You go, in fact, if you're working it as a nail salon, as a part-time nail polisher, you should be an employee. Because they look at that as a way, and they say it's criminal. And they kept using the word criminal. And I'm like, so I'm a criminal? Because I don't understand all the rules that are changing all the time in business.
No, that's different here.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they tell you there's statutes that will tell you if you have X number of employees, you have to have workers' comp.
Right.
Okay. And so that is more, if they had to bring an action against you, that's more civil. Okay. Yeah. But that's why I'm looking at you kind of like, what are you talking about? Like that's, for them to say that that's criminal, that's not Missouri law.
Yeah. No, I just get concerned for people as a whole when the government weaponizes their legal system against people in general, whether it's business or otherwise, when people are afraid to do things because the government has so much control. And you're from Alabama, yes. You know what a home cooking is.
I do.
I've had a home cooking before, okay? And it was not the type of place that you invite people over for mashed potatoes.
No, it's not. But here's what I will tell you. As your next Jackson County prosecutor, it is not my policy or procedure to use my office to come after people.
Yeah.
I only use my office as when an individual has actually committed some type of crime, and it's by statute, and I will only then will I prosecute them.
Well, awesome. I really appreciate you coming in and sharing anything. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our listening audience and with the people who are watching right now?
One of the things that I will like to say, and this is so overlooked, a couple of things, and then I'm going to be done.
No, take your time.
Many people don't look at crimes against children. This is happening every day. Yeah. I'm talking to moms who've, and different people who've said, hey, this kid had a skull fracture at 9 months old, and it's not prosecuted. Parents are giving their kids drugs, marijuana, and it's not being prosecuted.
Right.
We have to kids are just being, parents, whomever who have authority over them. I mean, they're using whatever they have to weaponize, these kids every day. And so these are certainly, that's one of the things that I am so passionate about.
Yeah.
In dealing with that. Yeah. And so I think that this is a great opportunity for me. I think it's a great opportunity for the community. I think it's a great opportunity for the police departments to know that you're going to have new leadership in place and that we're going to bring the city back to where it needs to be.
Yeah,
got to do that. So
let me highlight why that's so important. So we actually were buying a house. We bought it with the tenant in place, and the tenant was a meth head, and the tenant. So we kept trying to get a Victor out. She knew the legal system. Some meth heads are really well read with the legal system. I already know you know this. They are the pro se attorneys, and this lady was working everybody over. So finally, I took matters into my own hands and went and met with her, and just out of the blue. And when I got there was two guys waiting to get into the house for their round.
Wow.
And then when I got into the house, there's a dude. Polishing back a 40 in the back, and there's a bunch of guys passed out on the couches. But the most horrific thing that was going on is there was a little girl in that house her life was a freaking nightmare. She had her head buried in the couch cushions as her mom is running trains with guys outside. And finally I said, okay, I'm going to call the KCPD. If you guys don't get this person out of here, you got blood on your hands right now. This is what's going on with this lady right now. And then they finally got involved after that. But that was like it was a horror show. I felt so bad for that little girl.
And these are things that you're dealing with, and you wonder why, when these kids are experiencing trauma at such a young age, why they turn out the way that they do.
Yeah, 100%.
So
what I hear about Tracy is I hear a woman who cares, a prosecutor who's going to follow the rules, somebody who's going to prosecute crimes, solve problems, and embrace the community. Is that accurate?
That is accurate, 100%.
All right. Well, I hope you get elected. And how many votes do you need to win? I know that's a whole thing. You got to measure the votes. There's only certain people that vote. You want more people to vote, obviously.
We are getting on a campaign where we want to get people registered. We want to get people excited about voting. We want people who care about their communities and the safety of their communities to get out and do something that they've never done before. We need everyone. So you normally have lots of people who are in Eastern Jack, they'll come out and vote.
Right.
But the target is Kansas City.
Yeah. So I would love to offer this to you. If you ever want a place for a fundraiser, this is my building. I would be happy to host one for you downstairs, and hope you get elected and help you push you through there.
I appreciate that, and I will take you up on that offer.
100%. You got it. Yeah, we host meetups all the time.
Okay.
We got a really good turnout downstairs. The lobby's empty right now. It's a beautiful place to help you out. And so whenever that happens, you got your guy Zach here. Just get a hold of me, and we'll be happy to help you out with that.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for coming on the show. Guys, make sure you get involved locally. Make sure you vote for Tracy. She cares. If you're in Kansas City, you want a prosecutor like her on your side. And if you're a criminal in Jackson County, you better not get to the voting table. You probably can't even vote because she's going to win and put your ass in jail.
Yes, sir.
All right. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Talk to you guys later. Peace. Did you ever want to invest in real estate? Did you ever want to live the life of your dreams? Did you want financial freedom? Did you want to break the generational curse? Did you want to help your parents out? Did you want to help your mom out? Maybe you work for a job that you don't like. They say there's only one reason to work a job, and that's to learn, right? If you're not learning at your job, you're just going through the motions, right? We have a free Facebook group, the Millionaire Mentorship Facebook group for real estate investing. Make sure you join. The link is in the description. If you want to schedule a free call with me and my team and you actually want to start, I would suggest you do so. We have helped hundreds of people change their lives, and all they had to do was get started. They booked a call with me and my team, and they got the ball rolling. And I'm so confident that if you don't get your first or next investment property within the first 90 days, you don't pay, and I'll give you $1,000 cash. That's how confident I am. Obviously, you got to take action. You can't just do nothing and expect that to happen, but that's life. Life's all about taking action. Make sure you give this podcast a 5-star review, share it with a friend, and take action.